Mishnah Daled. This is going to be a little bit of a complication over here. We're going to introduce a new complication. Bechor behema. We have a case. You have an animal and it gave birth. That animal that the person has is a firstborn. Now, the firstborn, at the time of the temple, goes to the Kohen, goes to the priest. Today, what do we do with the firstborn? Somebody has a firstborn. For example, you have a firstborn. You have a firstborn in your... Your sheep is a firstborn. Yeah. You have a sheep, firstborn sheep. What do you do with it? You need to give it to me. I'm a Kohen.
Give it to the Kohen? No.
Yeah, you have to give it to me.
Today?
Of course.
No way.
Of course, otherwise you can eat it.
Huh?
It's mine, it's not yours. You still... No, also now it's mine. What do you mean? Of course, that's halacha.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. So
So
what do you have?
Now I have 2 sheep.
You cannot eat them.
I have to bring it.
You're not allowed to eat them. If they're firstborn, they're not firstborn. Only one of them is firstborn. Yeah, but I don't know if it's the firstborn. Did that goat never gave sheep? Is that the first pregnancy? Your wife would know. But let's say it is the first pregnancy, and it's the first one. You owe me the first one. It's mine. You're not allowed to take it away from me. But practically, we don't give Kohanim firstborn anymore. Why? Because practically, the Kohen is not pure. He has to prove that he's a Kohen. It's a lot of problems today. There's a lot of problems why we don't give it to the Kohen. But even at the time of the Beit HaMikdash, so what do? It says, Yir'eba. So the firstborn goes to, you're not allowed to work it, or to milk it, or to use it for wool, or anything else. And it has to go with the herd until it becomes blemished. Once it becomes blemished, you can give the money to the Kohen and then you can eat it for yourself. So that's what practically people do today. But it still belongs to the Kohen until then. You need to give him the money still, the value of it. Okay? So today, by the way, if you're going to ask what do they do today, what they do is that when you shecht an animal and it is a firstborn, you give a symbolic amount to you put it aside for the Kohanim. Yeah, you don't give it to the Kohanim. I think you burn it. You do something else with it. But whatever. Bechor behemat teora kadosh hu me'elav. So bechor behemat teora, a firstborn kosher animal, it is holy. Ve'af bezman hazeh en shochatim et. And even in our time, we're not allowed to shecht it. You're not allowed to eat it. You're not allowed to shecht it. It belongs to the Kohen. Ela im ken nafal bo mum kavua. The only way you'll be allowed to shecht it if it becomes blemished. So once it becomes blemished, it's not befitting to give to a Kohen, then you can eat it because it's blemished now. וצריך להראות תחילה את המום למומחה. But you cannot decide because it's not something that you can decide. You need an adjuster to come and decide. Because if you decide, you say, this is a blemish, so you can eat it. Yeah, of course. So you need a special adjuster to come. That was their job. They would have come and they would check if this blemish makes it not holy anymore. And once it becomes non-holy, then you can eat it. So you need to get to an adjuster, habaki b'mumim, an expert in blemishes. שיבדוק אם אמנם מום קבוע הוא או מום עובר. There's 2 kinds of blemishes. Even though it might not be befitting for a Kohen right now, but if the blemish is going to heal, it's still a firstborn animal. You just wait until the blemish heals and you give it to the Kohen. But there are some blemishes that never heal. So you need to know if this type of blemish never heals and then it becomes your own property. Our case is going to be complicated. We're going to use all these cases together. The ones we used until now. משנתנו דנה בבכור שהיה בו מום מערב יום טוב. So now, you're talking about a firstborn animal. It had a blemish, and you knew about the blemish in Erev Yom Tov. You just didn't know if the blemish is mum over or mum kayam. That's right. And for that, you need the expert. But you're not an expert, so you don't know. Okay? But you did know that it had a blemish. In other words, Maybe I can eat it in your mind, maybe I cannot eat it on Yom Tov. It's like we learned before. It's maybe yes, maybe not. That's our case. But in other words, you're not sure if you're allowed to eat it. Why? You didn't show it to the sage, to the adjuster yet. And you don't know if this blemish is a blemish that's going to stay there forever. Therefore, you're allowed to eat it. You didn't know there was a blemish. You just didn't know what type of blemish it is. Or not. That's not our case. Our case is that this animal fell into a pit. And it's about to die. So we're going to use the other Mishnah now. Oh, it's mesukenet.
Oh.
Yeah, it's two. In other words, we have two doubts over here. One, if it's a bechor or not a bechor, and one, it's mesukenet.
No, you know it's a bechor.
You know, it might not be.
Blemish or not blemish.
Yeah.
Permanent or not.
If it's a bechor that is blemish, it's not holy. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Is a bechor holy or not holy? Yeah. וחוששים שמא ימות שם, and now I'm afraid that he's going to die in the pit. You know, if he fell into a hole, and he's going to die over there. ולעלותו שלא לצורך אכילה אינו רשאי. Now, if you're just thinking about what's the problem, just take him out. Yeah, take him out of the pit. It's אינו רשאי ביום טוב. It says you're not allowed to do it in יום טוב. Yeah? Why? ואף על פי שיש כאן צער בעלי חיים, even though we have a case over here, that there's a rule that you have to have mercy on animals, אין חוששים לזלזל בכבוד יום טוב משום צער בעלי חיים. We have a rule that because we're not going to go against Yom Tov just for the sake of pain of animals. Yeah? For example,
sick animal and you have to lechayah, you can do it.
Not right. For a human being you're allowed to, not for an animal. Yeah? For an animal you're not allowed to. For a chicken, you have to give him medicine. You know, you have to do something to its leg. I don't know, not allowed to do on Yom Tov, on the Shabbos. Yeah, it's food. It's not a human being. It's not as pressure. For a human being, you have to do it. But for an animal, no. Even though that's tzar balei chayim. And it depends what kind of work. But by the way, there are some kind of things for Yom Tov and Shabbos, even for Shabbos, that you're allowed to do for animals, but it's not things that break Shabbos completely. It's things that are only the rabbis or only small little things you're allowed. Breaking completely, you're not allowed to. Okay. So that's our case. See, they've got so many combinations over here. Yeah. It's a bechor and it's a blemished and maybe not blemished, the whole thing. Bechor. So this is our case. We have a firstborn. Baal mum. You know for sure it has a blemish. But you don't know for sure if this blemish makes it non-holy or still holy. In other words, you don't know if you can eat it or not allowed to eat it. שלא יראו לו ממוכר מבערב יום טוב. You did not show him to an expert from before יום טוב. שנפל לבור. That he fell into a pit. ביום טוב. On יום טוב, this guy fell into a pit. ויש חשש שמא ימות שם. You're worried. He's going to stay over there. He might die. רבי יהודה אומר, so Rabbi Yehuda says, what can you do in such a case? You know you're an expert. There's a rabbi expert next door. So he said, do me a favor, come over here. Rabbi Yehuda אומר, ירד מומחה. You called your neighbor the expert, and he goes down. הבקיא מעורים, ויראה אם יש בו מום. He's going to look. Look, he has a blemish. So therefore, if he has a blemish, yeah, if this guy has a blemish, and it depends what kind of blemish, maybe I can eat him. כלומר, אם המום שיש בו מערב יום טוב, if the blemish that you already saw before יום טוב, הוא מום קבוע, is the kind of blemish that makes him not holy anymore, ומותר לשחטו, therefore you're allowed to shecht it, then, יעלה וישחוט. You don't have to shecht it in the pit. Then he's not muktzeh. He's not muktzeh. Now you can do with him whatever.
It's for food.
Yeah, now you can do with him whatever you want. Now you can take him out and shecht him. מותר להעלותו מן הבור ולשחטו. You're allowed to take him out of the pit and to slaughter it. Why? And look why. לפי שדעתו עליו מאתמול ואין בו דין מוקצה. Because yesterday you thought maybe I can eat him. You didn't know for sure you can eat him. But you thought this is food. If the blemish that I saw, I didn't call an expert yet, but you thought, if the blemish that I saw is a good blemish, then I can eat him. That's what you were thinking yesterday. That's why you're allowed to do it. Ve'im lav, and then if you find out that it's not the blemish is not enough, or the blemish is going to go away, אם ראה מומחה שהמום שהיה בו מערב יום טוב לא היה בו מום קבוע, if the expert saw that this kind of blemish is going to heal, אלא שעל ידי נפילתו לבור נעשה בו מום קבוע, but he tells you that blemish you saw yesterday was no good. I mean, it's still holy. It's still holy. But because it fell into the hole, now it has a blemish that you...
Because of the falling.
Because of the falling. So he says, but the falling didn't happen until when? When Erev... Until Yom Tov. That's too late already. In other words, that blemish is not enough for you to shecht him right now. Because you didn't have in mind that blemish when Yom Tov came in.
The blemish have to do with it. He had in mind the animal.
But he didn't know if he can eat the animal. It was a doubt by him whether he can eat the animal. And the new blemish wasn't done yesterday.
It was on a Yom Tov.
When it came in, it was a new blemish that happened into the animal. You know, it's something that was created on Yom Tov. He didn't have that blemish in mind. That's it. It's too late. He had to have that blemish in mind beforehand. In other words, the first blemish he had in mind, maybe it's good enough to eat. The second blemish didn't happen yet. He cannot have it in mind. לא ישחוט. He's not allowed to shecht it. כלומר, אסור להעלותו ביום טוב. You're not allowed to even to touch it. ואם עבר ועלהו, and if you made a mistake and you didn't bring him out from the thing, from the pit, אסור לשחטו. You're not allowed to slaughter it. שואיל ולא היה בו מערב יום טוב אלא מום עובר, הרי הוא מוקצה. Because when Yom Tov came in, this wasn't there, so you didn't have it in mind. Too late. Rabbi Shimon אומר, Rabbi Shimon is going to disagree. Rabbi Shimon says, כל שאין מומו ניכר מבעוד יום, as long as the mum is not seen when day came in, מערב יום טוב אם מום קבוע הוא, אין זה מן המוכן. In other words, if the blemish wasn't there from ערב יום טוב, that's it, it's too late. ואסור להעלותו ולשחטו ביום טוב. You're not allowed to bring him up.
Like them.
Oh, so it looks like he's like them, we're going to see soon. יש מפרשים שרבי שמעון, I don't want to go into this, I know the מחלוקת from the Gemara, but there's a מחלוקת between Rabbi Shimon and the Chachamim. Rabbi Shimon says there's no such thing as muktzeh. The whole ideas of muktzeh, he disagrees. Oh. So he also says it's not allowed, but not because of muktzeh, because you had to have in mind the blemish. That's what it's going to say. Yeah, but again, this is a Gemara thing, we're not going to deal with it right now. יש מפרשים, there are those who explains, שרבי שמעון אינו בא לאסור משום מוקצה. He says it. That Rabbi Shimon, he doesn't believe in muktzah. He doesn't think this whole ideas of out of your mind doesn't exist. Rabbi Shimon says he's a practical man. He says, what is muktzah? Muktzah means it wasn't in your mind. He says, I don't care what was in your mind or wasn't in your mind. Is the animal kosher or not kosher? It's not what's in your mind. The things that in your mind don't make something permitted or not permitted. What do I care what you think about? I care what is the status of the animal. This is what Rabbi Shimon is coming from. But again, the halacha is not like Rabbi Shimon, so we're not even going to deal with it. Rabbi Shimon and also din muktzah. Rabbi Shimon doesn't say it because you're not allowed to touch it. אלא משום שלדעתו אין רואים מומים ביום טוב. According to Rabbi Shimon, it's practicality. You're not allowed to bring the guy on Yom Tov to tell you his opinion whether it's kosher or not kosher. Why? Because at the time that he says, when he says it's kosher or not kosher, yeah, when he says he is like preparing the food, he's like finishing the object, and you're not allowed to finish an object on Yom Tov. That's the way Rabbi Shimon comes to it, the area. אלא שמשות דעתו אין רואים מפני שהוא כדן דין שגזרו בו משום שבות. וזה שאומר רבי שמעון, and this is what Rabbi Shimon says, כל שאין מומו ניכר מבעוד יום טוב, מבעוד יום, it says, if the blemish wasn't there already when they came in, אין זה מן המוכן. If you need to bring an expert, that means it's you're not allowed to bring an expert on Yom Tov. I cannot. להיות קשה לשחיטה. Why? the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon, by the way. שאין המומחה יכול להתירו ביום טוב והתרתו אינה היתר. In other words, you cannot bring an expert in Yom Tov because that's what makes the food kosher. וההלכה is like Rabbi Shimon. I thought the halacha is not like Rabbi Shimon, but the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon.